So I'm Robert. I'm one of the coastal liberals, as you'd say. I've been watching you for years now, and I read your book on the arguments to fight against people like me, and I feel bad because for the most part, the people who have been arguing against you aren't nearly as elegant or eloquent as they should be. But I'd just like to ask. So one of your points you very strongly make is that it's unfair for people like me to label you as a racist or a bigot, just as a smear tactic. But have you ever acknowledged that maybe it's not a smear tactic, but it's based on things you've said? So for example, on the Israel-Palestine conflict, you called the Arabs. Yeah, you already know what I'm going to say. I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean to presume. Yeah, so you say
I've written several full columns about it.
Yeah,
I've talked about how people don't read the follow-up tweets. I wrote a column.
I've read some of the tweets, and the tweets were just as bad. I mean, you say a lot of things that are just racist, right? But then if I call you a racist, then you defend it by saying I didn't read enough, right? So that's what I was going to say before.
So give me give me my racist tweets in context.
Okay, well.
Yeah, you came prepared. Go do it.
So you said the Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult. You before that said Israelis like to build.
Did you? Okay, now the follow-ups, because you said the follow-ups didn't make it any better.
Well, this is separate things that you said.
No. I want
bad.
follow-ups to that one though.
Follow-ups to that specific.
Would you like me to
tweet?
get them? I'll get them for you.
If you have them, sure. But in the meantime, do you mind while you do that?
What was that?
Do you mind if I continue while you do that?
Well, I'd like to take them one by one. So
sure.
Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we delay that one until the end while I look this up from the podium in front of 600 people?
You've also said. Okay. Yeah, so on that particular issue, you've also said that the Arab-Palestine populace is, by and large, constitutes the most evil population on the face of the planet. Before you said that you've never brought up religion when it comes to abortion, but I don't think that you've avoided religion when it comes to the Israeli conflict, and I don't know that you can be completely unbiased in the issue, given that
I can be unbiased on the subject that the Palestinians have elected 3 terrorist governments to form a unity government with the stated goal of the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of all Jews in the area. So that I can be relatively unbiased on. As far as the idea that the Palestinian population... As far as the idea that the Palestinian population is more evil than other populations, they certainly hold more evil views than other populations by poll statistics, by how many Palestinians approve of terror attacks, by how many Palestinians voted for an actual terror group, Hamas, and another actual terror group, Palestinian Authority, and another actual terror group, the Islamic Jihad. Okay, so I don't think that all views are equal, and I don't think that people who hold evil views are necessarily good. I mean, I'm sorry if the polls don't support the idea that everyone is equally wonderful, but everyone is not equally wonderful. Okay, I'm looking up these statements now, so if you'd like to give me a second.
But you've continued. You deny secular Zionism, and you
quote. So here I've got them in front of me. Okay, so I'll finish that one, then we can move. Okay, ready? There are many, many Christian and Muslim Arabs who are wonderful people, just not the ones who oppose Israel in the Israel-Arab conflict. That would be the response within the same Twitter thread. Okay, in the post Israelis versus Arabs, I wrote about Arabs who take part in the Israeli-Arab conflict, as anyone who can read knows. #dumbasses. Okay, quote, I think it has much more to do with the fact that the Palestinian leadership supported by the Palestinian population uses millions for terror. I should have been more specific. Arabs who actively seek Israel's destruction. Those would be the follow-up tweets. Does that sound like genocidal mania to you, or does it sound like I'm specifically labeling a group of people who have called for Israel's destruction?
I like to point out that you're not a racist, but they're dumbasses, and you're allowed to insult them.
Yes, because if someone calls me a racist without evidence, they are definitionally a dumbass.
What is genocide? Wait. I'll try to finish this. Okay. It's hard when everyone keeps clapping when he says. What is genocide? So you said that you want to be like Churchill. Right, and after the Allies, when they moved the German-speaking Polish out of Poland.
So now you're talking about a column I wrote when I was 19 years old that I morally abhorred and denounced myself. I think 6 years ago.
Yeah, you
have repeatedly said was a bad column that I wrote when I was 19 years old.
Okay.
Okay, so.
I wish I had more time. Do you want to get a drink sometime, like a non-alcoholic beverage?
What was that? Say it one more time.
Do you want to get a non-alcoholic drink sometime? Because I have a lot here. I really do.
I know that you've got a book. Let me just say this: for everything that you're going to say, I've addressed literally every one of those points. I have a column that I put out probably only a few months ago, and the literal title of it is "So here's a giant list of all the dumb stuff I've ever done. Don't worry, I'll keep updating it."
I didn't get that one in my research. I do apologize if I've misrepresented. My research wasn't able to be so thorough. Because it was a pretty last-minute decision to start really going in trying to ask you a question.
And again, that's totally fine, and I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate you asking me the questions. But if the notion is that I'm a racist before you actually read all of my responses to that...
I mean, the racist is just one part. I also like the transgender. Like, you don't believe in transgenders, and, like, that's not really
supported by biology. I don't know what that means. I don't believe in transgenders. I mean, transgender people exist. It's not something to believe in or not.
You've said... Yeah. You've said that gender and sex are the same thing. They think they're synonymous.
I said that gender and sex are linked. I've said that femininity and masculinity are linked to male and female.
Just before you said that they were...
Right, there are two genders. I don't believe there are 1,000 genders. And if I think that if you're defining gender as just a random series of societal constructs, then there aren't two genders, there are infinite numbers of genders, because everybody is a mix of feminine and masculine. So why restrict it to 70 genders? Make it 6 billion genders, since we all have our unique mix of what male and female constitute. And yes, I don't think that there can be such a thing as a male in a female's body. I don't think that there is a female in a male's body, and I find the logic to support that and the science to support that utterly lacking.
Yeah. So, again, I didn't...
I'd be happy to get a non-alcoholic beverage with you and discuss it more fully.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Free speech goes on. So it turns out that your administrators are a bunch of hacks. Pathetic crybaby wusses who only care about the melting snowflakes, who didn't even have balls to show up, by the way. They got 35 people, 35 security people for little old me. No, not even any protesters, just for me, because of my jiu-jitsu skills and my massive 5'9", 165 Jewish frame. Okay, so I want to start. I come bearing gifts, particularly for the social justice warriors. So I keep hearing that you fellas, that you party people, that you want to... You're wearing around these safety pins. So I brought a whole pack of safety pins just for you. And then to accompany those, I brought the diapers you ought to be wearing. So you can pin that up. You self-indulgent, pathetic children who can't handle anybody who has an opposing point of view. Yeah, you're real strong. You're real tough. So strong and so tough, you have to stand behind the security and the police officers that you're bashing every single day. I promise you, in the privacy of their own homes, every member of that security team and every member of the police force is in agreement with me, not the people who they're protecting from my supposed free speech threat. Okay, now a quick note about all the protests that are taking place across the country, just as a preliminary. A lot of protests taking place about Donald Trump. These people are idiots, okay? I didn't vote for Trump for reasons both moral and political, but you can keep whining about reality like privileged snowflakes, but you're going to melt in the sun of the real world. Donald Trump does not give two shits about what you think. He is going to bathe in your salty tears. Okay, now, on to more important matters. Today we're going to take apart 3 terms. We're going to do it really quickly because now we've been time compressed, and I want to make sure that Christina was kind enough to cede the podium to me in this ridiculous situation. I want to make sure that Christina has the capacity and the time to speak. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about social justice, white privilege, and safe spaces. Okay, so first of all, social justice. So back in May, Milo spoke at this university, and the SJWs shut down his event by storming the stage and screaming obscenities and threatening violence. And the Reverend Dennis Holtschneider sent a letter to the students the following day that said universities welcome speakers and give their ideas a respectful hearing, and then respond with additional speech countering the ideas. This, of course, opened the floodgates. One prominent law professor wrote that the president had betrayed marginalized students, and within minutes, the guy was basically fired for not having issued an apology abject enough for having someone who disagreed. As y'all know, I'm not a Milo fan, but the fact is, free speech is free speech, and this is ridiculous. Tonight, as we just saw, the administration announced that they would be willing to arrest me if I took 2 steps forward, not even to speak. If I was even in the audience for Christina's speech, they would arrest me. This is not America. This is Soviet-style bullshit. You don't get to do this in America. Now, this isn't justice, of course, because justice means that your individual actions have individual consequences. This is social justice. Social justice, by the way, is an oxymoron, and it is for morons. Social justice is the idea... Social justice is the idea that if you are guilty, you might still be treated as innocent because of your race. That if you do something wrong in life, we can excuse that depending on your color or your sex or your sexual orientation. Social justice says that your group identity relieves you of individual responsibility. And hardcore leftists like to call themselves social justice warriors because they think that individual justice, that being treated decently as an individual, treating others decently as an individual, that is racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobic. They think that we should be held responsible not for our actions, but for the group to which we belong. Now, in normal parlance, we call this racist. In normal parlance, we call this sexist, treating people not based on who they are as individuals and what they do, but based on their identity. Race doesn't mean anything. Sex doesn't mean anything when it comes to whether you're a good person or a bad person. But social justice warriors, they say that that standard is just too terrible. It's just too insulting. Social groups must be treated as superior to individuals. Okay, now, the problem with this, of course, is that it's racist. But the question is why the left believes in this sort of stuff. Why does the left believe in what is something that is inherently unfair, something that is inherently racist and sexist and bigoted? Why? And the answer is because the left believes that every person in the world should finish up in the same place. They believe in equal outcomes. They believe that no matter how you're treated, no matter what your upbringing, no matter how you act, everybody should end up in the same place. So if you have two people in a room, one rich, one poor, the rich person must have stolen from the poor person because equality of outcome has not been achieved. And the same thing holds true for groups. If you have a group of black people and a group of white people, then equality has not been achieved unless the black people and the white people are of equal status economically, of equal status in society. Equality of outcome is the only thing that matters. And the problem is that individual justice means that some people are not going to finish in the same place as others. Some people are going to take actions that are not beneficial. Some people are going to do stupid things. Some people are going to do smart things. So how does the left solve that conundrum of individual justice? How do they solve the basic truth? How do they make way for the basic truth that some people do smart things and some people do stupid things, and that's what really causes inequality in a free country? They say the real reason that some people underachieve is, of course, because of white privilege. Right? Social justice warriors think the only thing that matters in the world is white privilege. It's a bunch of white evil people, and those white evil people are going to take advantage of you. The system was built by all these white evil people for the benefit of their own kind. That's the basic idea here. White privilege is inherent in everything. We have to tear down white privilege. And this is a very seductive idea, of course. The campus left gives people a feeling of virtue. It makes them feel virtuous by counting them members of victimized identity groups. So if you don't do well in life, then it's not because you made bad choices. It's not because even of your individual circumstance. It's because America as a country has put you down because you are not one of these privileged white males. Which means the bad guys in this whole narrative are, of course, the privileged white males, right? The white, heterosexual, cisgender males. We are the bad guys. We are the villains here. Now, the good news for the white, heterosexual, cisgender males is there's an easy way to get out of this. And that is to just repent. Just admit that everything you did in your life, everything the founders did, everything that all the white people did ever, all of that was designed so that you could benefit now. And all of your successes and your parents' successes, those weren't due to great decisions. And people's non-success isn't based on bad decisions. All of this is just based on you, and if you just repent and admit that you've never done anything good in your life and that the system is built for your benefit, then they say you're an okay person, which is just wonderful. Okay, now, before we go further, I do want to note something, right? It is true, of course, that black people and other minorities, but particularly black people, have suffered historic discrimination in the United States. That's inarguably true. It's even true that some people are likely suffering the effects of historic discrimination, the after effect under Jim Crow. But that doesn't mean black people right now are suffering institutional discrimination. It doesn't mean that. Okay, it turns out that in the world, you're born into circumstances beyond your control. Some of us are born rich. Some of us are born poor. Some of us are born smart. Some of us are born DePaul administrators, right? We cannot fix where you start in life, and we can't fix where you finish in life. That is all beyond our control. The only thing we can control is making sure that your rights are not violated. And it turns out that America is a free and open country where white privilege is not what makes people successful or not successful. Decision privilege is what makes people successful or not successful. What you do as an individual is going to define whether you have a good life or not in the United States of America. What you decide to do is going to decide whether your kids succeed or fail in America. Not some white guy out in the sticks somewhere who's dreaming about how he's going to ruin your life. It turns out in America, most people don't give a crap that much. Okay, nobody is saying where that black guy in the inner city. I'm sitting around my dinner table at night thinking, how do I keep that black guy in the inner city down? Nobody is doing that. The number of people who are doing that is minuscule or zero. The actual privilege that exists in any free country is the privilege of decision. So, if you want to know why there is disproportionate poverty in the black community, the most obvious reason there's disproportionate poverty in the black community is because there is disproportionate single motherhood in the black community. And that has nothing to do with race. It has to do with bad decisions. The poverty rate among white single-parent families, white single-mother families, is 22%. The poverty rate among black two-parent families is 7%. What happened to the white privilege? Did it just disappear? Did the white people decide that everything was okay now and so black two-parent families were all right? Or does it turn out that you have one parent in the home, it makes it a lot harder to thrive in the workplace, it makes it a lot harder to thrive in raising your child?